My sister boldly took full credit for my project and got a big promotion, Dad said. She's always been brighter. I said nothing. Today, she called me screaming after she was. It wasn't until I heard her name on the intercom during the all-hands that I knew something was off. Let's give a huge round of applause to our very own Danielle Hart, creator of the Athena system. There it was. Danielle. My older sister. Her name, not mine. The applause was thunderous. Cameras flashed. Someone even popped champagne. And I just sat there, frozen, in the back of the auditorium. Not clapping. Not blinking. Because the Athena system was mine. Every line of code, every sleepless night, every stubborn problem no one else could solve, I had done it. I had built it. Athena was more than just another project at our tech firm. It was the system that would change how we scaled our platforms, how we secured our data. It was supposed to be the thing that finally put my name on the map. Instead, it was the thing that made her a star. I remember the first time she asked to see it, weeks before that day. She had stopped by my office, coffee in hand, like nothing was unusual. "Show me what you're working on, little brother," she said, her smile warm but just a little too curious. I didn't hesitate. I was proud of it. Proud enough to forget the fact that Danielle had a history of borrowing other people's ideas and sprinkling her name on top. I walked her through the system, every module, every innovation. She asked smart questions. Took notes. Told me it was brilliant. I thought that was it. Then, last week, she told me she'd be going to a meeting with upper execs. "They want innovation," she said. "And I think you've got something." What she meant was she had something. The next time I heard about the project, it was being pitched to the C-suite, with her as the lead. I wasn't even in the room. I didn't scream. I didn't confront. I didn't go to HR or start yelling about intellectual theft. I just sat at my desk that day, staring at the blinking cursor of an empty terminal window, feeling something inside me go very, very still. And then came the promotion. Danielle wasn't just thanked. She was catapulted. A massive bonus. New office. Articles in tech blogs. Interviews on panels. They called her a prodigy. A visionary. No one mentioned me. When I told my dad, quietly, hoping for just a sliver of outrage, he sighed and said, "She's always been brighter. Be proud of her." That broke something in me. Not just the betrayal. Not just the dismissal. It was the certainty in his voice that wrecked me. Like this was how things had always been meant to go. I didn't argue. I didn't say a word. But that was the day I stopped being the quiet brother who just took it. That was the day I began watching. It started small, barely noticeable, like the faintest glitch in clean code. I was in the break room, stirring my coffee, when I overheard two junior devs chatting near the fridge. "Is it just me, or does that Athena system doc feel off?" one of them said, flipping through printed pages. "Yeah," the other replied. "Half of it reads like it was written by someone else entirely. Some of the logic flows don't even match her speaking style." That was the first time I realized people were noticing. Subtle, quiet doubt creeping into the edges of Danielle's narrative. I didn't say anything. I just finished my coffee and walked back to my desk. I was already building the folder. I started collecting everything. Email threads where I discussed Athena's early concepts with my manager. Version control histories with time-stamped commits under my name. The internal wiki I created, step-by-step documenting the system's architecture, months before Danielle ever asked to see it. It wasn't revenge. Not yet. At first, it was survival. A quiet need to preserve the truth before it was rewritten forever. The company was buzzing in the weeks after her promotion. There were whispers about Athena being licensed to outside partners. Massive potential revenue. The CTO was already booking investor calls. And Danielle? She was glowing. She even called me once, to thank me. "None of this would have happened if you hadn't let me in on it," she said, like she just borrowed my car and returned it with a thank you note taped to a scratch on the door. I said nothing. Just nodded along. She never noticed the silence. Our dad called me around that time too. Not to ask how I was doing. Just to talk about how proud he was of Danielle. "She's making history," he said. "The whole family's lucky to have her name out front." I didn't correct him. Instead, I opened my private drive and started uploading more files. That night, I found the internal Slack messages she'd sent to her project team, describing Athena as something she'd sketched out over coffee. Her words. My architecture. My logic. My solution to the scaling bottleneck. She didn't even bother changing the structure. It was surreal. Like watching a magician steal your watch and make you applaud when they pull it out of their hat. But something else was happening beneath the surface. People were starting to get uncomfortable. The tech leads from other teams asked for consultations with her, and walked away confused. She couldn't explain the memory leak fix, one said. She deflected every technical question, another whispered during lunch. Still, the image held. But cracks were forming. And I kept collecting. I didn't have a timeline. No grand plan yet. Just a quiet, methodical resolve. Let them keep clapping. Let them think it was hers. For now. It was a Sunday afternoon when I decided to try. Not to argue. Not to expose her. Just to talk. I hadn't seen my father in weeks, and maybe, some deluded part of me thought, maybe if I explained it plainly, he'd understand. Maybe he'd surprise me. We met at his place, a small house he kept meticulously tidy. The same one Danielle used to visit in heels and tailored coats, always getting, "You've made me proud," before the door even closed behind her. He opened with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "She's in a magazine, did you see? Tech and Business Weekly. Page 4. I nodded. I had seen. I'd read every word, right down to the quote she took from me. "We're building something that listens, not just speaks." They printed it in bold under her picture. I took a deep breath and said, "Dad, the Athena system? I made it." He blinked once. "You were on the team, right?" "No. I built it. All of it." She saw it when it was nearly done. And she presented it as hers. He set his coffee down, lips pressed in. No surprise on his face. No confusion. Just a long silence before he said, with complete calm, "She's always been brighter. Be proud of her." That was it. He didn't ask for proof. He didn't ask what I planned to do. Just brushed it off like it was a matter of who won at chess. I remember staring at him for what felt like minutes, waiting for something to shift in his expression. But nothing came. "I just thought you should know," I said, rising from the chair. He didn't look up. "You've always been too sensitive. She's moving the family forward." I didn't respond. Didn't slam the door. Didn't raise my voice. I just left. On the drive home, the numbness settled in. There was no confrontation, not really. Just quiet disappointment that somehow hurt more than if he'd screamed at me. I realized then, he wasn't going to see me. Not ever. And that was the night I stopped hoping. That was the night I started planning. It wasn't dramatic. There were no late-night lightning storms, no revenge montages soundtracked by heavy drums. It was quiet. Almost sterile. A process of laying bricks, one after the other, until the road pointed exactly where I needed it to. That Monday morning, I requested access logs from our Git server. As a senior developer, no one questioned it. I compiled the document, dates, times, push history. Every significant commit to Athena, under my username. Danielle's name appeared once. A cosmetic comment. She'd suggested changing the name of a module, nothing more. Next, I traced the Slack logs. Exported everything related to Athena over the past 6 months. Most of the early conversations had my fingerprints all over them. Discussions, designs, questions answered in detail. Danielle didn't show up until the last quarter of the timeline. Always asking, never building. Then came the emails. I'd saved everything without even realizing why. Auto backups, drafts, even screenshots of messages where I explained complex system behaviors to her in plain English. Like I was writing her a cheat sheet. I filed all of it. Labeled. Dated. Watermarked. It wasn't a bomb made of code, it was built with patience, paper trails, and the quiet weapon of the truth. I kept watching her. She was in full bloom now, interviews, press releases, even an award nomination. The higher she climbed, the quieter I became. People stopped inviting me to planning meetings. When my name came up, it was always in past tense. He helped early on. He was part of the technical groundwork. Danielle really brought it to life. They made it sound like I was some scaffolding you take down after the building's finished. It didn't hurt. Not anymore. Because I knew what was coming. I reached out to a journalist under a pseudonym. One who specialized in tech ethics. Sent him a simple email. You're going to want to look into who really built the Athena system. The paper trail's thick. Start with this folder. Then I set up an anonymous internal submission to our company's legal department. Another to HR. All with the same package, timestamps, commit logs, emails. No accusations. Just facts. Arranged so neatly that denial would be laughable. I didn't expect fireworks. I expected silence. Then, maybe, a slow unraveling. But I was wrong. Because 3 days later, I got the call. Not from the company. Not from the journalist. From Danielle. And she was screaming. My phone lit up with her name, Danielle, work, but I already knew what it would be. I'd been watching the ripple effects all morning. The company's Slack had gone uncharacteristically silent. No congratulations, no memes, no calendar pings about. Athena partner licensing, final push. Just quiet. The kind of silence that hangs in the air before a building implodes. And then came the scream. I picked up, and for a moment, all I heard was breathing. Sharp, panicked. Then her voice, high, frantic, laced with the edge she used to reserve for Dad when he forgot her birthday. What? Did you do? I didn't answer. You sent it, didn't you? You couldn't just stay in your lane, could you? You couldn't let me have this. Still, I said nothing. Let her fill the silence. They're suspending my title. Legal wants to review my involvement. HR is investigating code authorship discrepancies. I have a meeting with the CTO in 2 hours and I don't even know what I'm walking into. Are you happy now? Is this revenge? I waited until her breath started to break. Until the anger began tipping into fear. And only then did I speak. No, I said. It's not revenge. It's the truth. She went quiet. The truth you thought would never come out. The truth you thought didn't matter. Because you had charm. You had Dad. You had the name, the smile, the right words at the right time. But none of that built Athena. I did. I could hear her swallowing hard. You told the world a story, Danielle. I just gave them the ending. And then, for the first time in our lives, she asked me for something. Please, she said, her voice small now. Just tell them it was a misunderstanding. Say we worked on it together. Say it got mixed up. Please, I'm begging you. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered that day in my father's living room. She's always been brighter. And I remembered staying late at the office, rewriting the back-end pipeline while she was out doing interviews. And I remembered her standing on a stage, accepting applause for something that never had her fingerprints on it. You made your choice, I said. Now I've made mine. She didn't scream again. She just hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time after that. Waiting for something, regret, satisfaction, grief. But what I felt, in the strangest way, was peace. The first one came at 7:12 a.m. Call me back. That was it. No greeting. No name. Just that clipped command I'd grown up hearing like gospel. I played it once, then deleted it. The second came 15 minutes later. Your sister's in trouble. I don't know what you think you're doing, but this isn't helping anyone. By voicemail 6, the tone had shifted. No longer angry, just wounded in that particular way only he could weaponize. You've embarrassed this family. You've made us look like fools. Is that what you wanted? And then number 9. She's still your sister. That one stung more than I expected. Because beneath all of this, all the silence, all the erasure, there was still that buried part of me that wanted him to get it. To understand. To say I'm sorry. But he never did. Voicemail 11 was quieter. Almost frail. You know, I thought I raised a better man than this. That line? It hit like a slow punch to the gut. Because for years I believed him. Believed I was lesser, quieter, a footnote. The dependable one, not the exceptional one. And maybe that's why I never fought back. Until now. The 12th and final voicemail came that evening. His voice was tired. Just come home, okay? We'll talk this out. I didn't play it twice. Instead, I opened my contacts, scrolled down to Dad, hovered for a second, and blocked the number. Then I did the same with Danielle. Not in rage. Not in triumph. Just release. Because it was done now. The truth was out. The fallout was theirs to carry. And I was finished playing the quiet son in a family that only ever turned up the volume when I stayed silent. That night, I sent my resignation email. Simple. Professional. Clear. Then I packed a bag. No plan. No map. Just a tank full of gas and a road that stretched long and unwritten. The elevator ride down felt different that morning. Not heavy. Not nervous. Just final. I had my laptop bag slung over one shoulder, a box in my hands, mostly symbolic. A couple of notebooks, my favorite mug, a photo from a company offsite 3 years ago. Back when things still felt possible. No one stopped me as I walked through the lobby. A few glanced up, recognized me, then quickly looked away. Word had spread. No one knew what to say. I didn't need them to. The security guard at the front desk, Thomas, nodded at me. He didn't smile, but he didn't look away either. That meant something. Outside, the air was crisp. Late autumn had arrived overnight. The kind of air that cuts through your lungs, not to hurt you, but to remind you you're still here. Still breathing. I popped the trunk of my car, slid the box in, and shut it gently. Then I got behind the wheel, and I didn't start the engine right away. I just sat there, staring up at the building where I'd spent the last 7 years. I thought I might feel regret. Fear. Second-guessing. Instead, I felt space. Real space. Like I'd finally stepped out of a room I didn't know was too small for me until I left it. No more building dreams for people who never saw me. No more waiting for applause that would never come. No more pretending it didn't hurt when it did. I pulled out of the parking lot with no destination in mind. Just a vague compass pointing anywhere but here. Out of the city, past the endless glass towers, through stretches of highway that looked like freedom. I passed hills dusted with orange leaves, gas stations that hadn't changed in 30 years, long stretches of nothing but sky and silence. And with every mile, the weight on my chest loosened. This wasn't about revenge. It never really was. It was about truth. And letting go. And finally walking away from a family and a company that only knew how to celebrate me when I was useful, and forget me the moment I wasn't. At some point, I turned off the main road and onto a back one, winding past faded barns and old trees. I didn't know where I'd sleep that night. I didn't care. For the first time in years, the road ahead was mine. It's strange what echoes in the quiet. Not the shouting. Not the betrayal. Not even the lies. What stays with you are the things you never said, the words that sat just behind your teeth, waiting for the right moment that never came. As the miles slipped behind me and the hum of the tires filled the car, those unsaid things began to surface. Gentle, haunting. To my father I never said. You made me believe I was born to live in someone else's shadow. I didn't say. You had 2 children, but only one ever needed to prove themselves, and you still chose her. To Danielle I never said. You didn't just take credit. You took years of my life, hours I'll never get back, and made them your spotlight. I didn't say. I wanted you to be proud of me too. I thought about the countless moments I held my tongue. The meetings I let her lead. The holidays where our father toasted her latest award and handed me the carving knife like that was my role, to serve, not to be seen. And still, I stayed quiet. Because that's what I was taught: be patient. Be the better man. Be useful. But what I've learned is, silence is a choice. And sometimes, it's the loudest thing you can do. When I sent those files, I didn't attach a note. I didn't include a manifesto or demand a spotlight. I let the facts speak. And now, I was choosing silence again, not the kind that gets mistaken for weakness, but the kind that protects your peace. The kind that says, I don't owe you an explanation. Because the truth is, I didn't want an apology. Not anymore. I didn't want the company to recognize me, or my father to admit he was wrong. I didn't even want Danielle to fall. I just wanted out. Out of the cycle. Out of the game. Out of the exhausting race to prove I mattered to people who'd already made up their minds. So, no, I wouldn't be giving interviews. I wouldn't be taking meetings. I wouldn't be reclaiming my name. I'd be driving, breathing, living, and letting the silence say the rest. I didn't have a destination. Just the open road and a vague sense that somewhere, anywhere, had to be better than the place I left behind. I wasn't running. Not really. I was just unplugging. Somewhere outside of state lines, I pulled into a diner with faded red booths and a sign that buzzed even when it wasn't lit. The waitress called me Han and poured coffee before I asked. It was the kind of place no one cared who you were or what you did, only that you tipped well and kept your elbows off the pie case. I sat there for a long time. Ate slowly. Watched a father teach his son how to line up a quarter on the edge of the table to flip it into a glass. He missed every time, but the dad cheered like it was the Super Bowl. It made me wonder, how different would I be if someone had done that for me? I didn't stay long. Just enough to finish my coffee and watch the light shift through the window. Then I got back in the car, turned the key, and started driving again. Not away from something. Just forward. I don't know where I crossed the line from leaving to arriving. Maybe it was somewhere between the silent stretch of highway and that moment when the sky stopped looking heavy. Maybe it was never about a place. I pulled over on the side of a long, empty road just as the sun dipped behind the trees, burnt gold bleeding into the hills like it had nowhere else to be. There was no fanfare. No epiphany. Just stillness. I stepped out of the car and stood there, alone, arms at my sides, the engine ticking behind me like a slow heartbeat. I wasn't thinking about Danielle. Or the company. Or the dozen voicemails sitting quietly in a folder I'd never open again. I was thinking about breath. About time. About how, for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting. Not for approval. Not for a promotion. Not for someone to see me. I was already here. And that, more than the justice, more than the truth, is what mattered. Not the flames in the rearview mirror. Not the applause I never got. Just the quiet certainty that I was no longer chasing anything. I got back in the car, rolled the windows down, and let the wind carry away the last of it. No plan. No road map. Just freedom. And sometimes, that's the only destination that ever really matters.